Hey everybody, so I'd like to talk to you guys about human growth hormone and the companies and that made it and why I was wrong on a couple things in my last video. Okay, so first and foremost I want to say that I have the actual pamphlets from 3 of the manufacturers of growth hormone, and all 3 of these are done in a different way. First, I want to discuss one very important thing about this is the patent date. The patent date on all of these is the same. And I want to talk about that because I have patents myself, and so upon further investigation I found out that these are all similar filings off of the same patent. And what I have here are the pamphlets for Genotropin from Pfizer, Serostim by the company, Serostim by the company EMD, Serrano, the product is the Serostim, and Norditropin, the Norditropin cartridges by the Novo Nordisk, the company that makes Norditropin. Okay, so first I'm going to talk about this patent. All the initial U.S. patents were approved in 1987 for all these. Serrano's Serostim, Novo Nordisk's Norditropin, very important. Norditropin pre-mixed was patent 1987. Okay? And then Genotropin, Pfizer's, also 1987. All 3 of these have a couple things that are different with them, but one thing in common. They're all 191 amino acid sequence. 2 of them are approved for human use in children. One of them is only approved by the FDA for HIV positive patients. This is very important because what you're about to learn from me is how drugs and drug companies use money to make the FDA print or allow them to print certain things, don't print certain things. And it's very deep. This is very deep, guys. And I've been wrong about some of the things that I said about growth hormone. So I want to retract some of the things that I said going forward with some real literature and real information talking about the difference in growth hormone and why the law and the FDA has certain ones scheduled for certain things. Medical purpose approved for certain things and certain of them approved for other things. Now, let's start with this U.S. approval date for Serostim. Okay, so we're going to talk first about Serostim, and we're going to discuss 2 things because the other, pretty much everything else in these inserts, these are the actual inserts from the companies, from the actual drugs. So again, no drugs are being displayed here. These are only actual real pamphlet inserts, and you can call the company and you can get these yourself if you want. So you can also get this information off the internet too. The companies have these same things displayed. So the companies aren't hiding anything in front of your own eyes. So let's make that clear. Serostim patent, US approved 1987. Okay. Now I want to go to number 11 on here, which is the description of the drug. I normally don't read you guys the pamphlet, but in this case, I think it's very important to understand why we need to read these drug inserts, because they give away a lot more than you might think. First off, all of them, including the Norditropin AQ, was patented in 1987. The initial patent. So the initial patent in 1987, there was 2 of them. One of them was for Humatrope, and the other one was for 192 amino acid sequence made by Genentech, which was called Genentech There's another version of Genotropin, but it's by Genentech. Anyway, there was 192 amino acids, and that kind of still kind of faded away. But the 191 amino acid that the Humatrope Lilly got, all these are 1987 from that Lilly patent on Humatrope, and all these are just a different variation, and the different variation is right here, is where it's in the description. For Serostim, the description is on number 11. So if you get this at home on your computer and you want to look it up, you look up the company, the Serostim Serrano company, and look up the product Serostim. And under description, under number 11, it says, Serostim is a human growth hormone, HGH, produced by recombinant DNA technology. Serostim has 191 amino acid residue in a molecular, resides in a molecular weight of 22,125 daltons. Its amino acid sequence and structure are identical to the dominant form of human pituitary growth hormone. Okay, so it's identical. It's identical. Serostim is produced by a mammalian cell line, and then it says mouse C127, that has been modified by the addition of a HGH gene, human growth hormone gene. Serostim is secreted directly through the cell membrane into the cell culture medium for collection and purification. It's a two-part process. The initial part is all rDNA, 191 amino acid sequence. It has the exact identical weight in daltons of the human growth hormone. It is identical. Now, in the way it's produced, the way it's actually made is this way. Okay, so that's Serostim, 1987. Now, Genotropin, okay, also on here, it's number 11. The description's number 11. So if you want to look at Pfizer's Genotropin, have a look at Pfizer's Genotropin, and on number 11, it says, under the description, it says, Genotropin lyophilized powder contains somatotropin rDNA, which is a polypeptide hormone of recombinant DNA origin. It has 191 amino acid, resides in a molecular weight of 22,124 daltons. The amino acid sequence of the product is identical to that of human growth hormone of the pituitary origin. Okay? Somatotropin. Genotropin is synthesized. This is where it's different from the Serostim. Is synthesized in a strain of Escherichia E. coli that has been modified by the addition of the gene for human growth hormone. Genotropin is sterile light white powder intended for subcutaneous injection. Okay, so the difference between these two, they started off almost the same. There was one slight difference where this says is produced by recombinant DNA technology, and this one says is a polypeptide hormone recombinant DNA technology. So the difference was one was the growth hormone and the other was the polypeptide. Just difference in wording. Again, same thing, worded slightly different. But the difference in here was the Escherichia E. coli. That was the difference here from here. So here you have mammalian cell filtration, and here you have Escherichia bacteria. Okay? All these are FDA approved, so there's nothing new here. Over here on the Norditropin, AQ, which is the pre-mixed Norditropin, which we come to think of as the newest technology when it comes to growth hormone. And on number 11, under the description, it says Norditropin is a polypeptide hormone. So now this picks up where Genotropin is. Now you see the Serostim was not, that was just hormone. These other two start off with polypeptide hormones, so now you see the advancement, okay, of a recombinant DNA origin. The hormone is synthesized by a special strain of E. coli bacteria that has been modified by, here's the difference. So far, this one and genotropin are the same. This next few words is what makes the difference. Okay, so it's modified by the addition of a plasmid which carries the gene for human growth hormone. Okay, so that's the difference. A plasmid. Okay, plasmid. 191 amino acids constituting the natural occurring pituitary human growth hormone with a molecular weight of 22,000 daltons. There's a difference now. This is 22,000 daltons. Let's go back to the genotropin. 22,124 daltons. So the molecular weight, and I'm sorry, 22,124, and just to give you the one over here, 22,125. Okay, Serostim has one more dalton than genotropin, which has 124 more dalton than Norditropin. The molecular weight becomes lighter. The purer the filtration, the lighter the molecular weight, the more identical it becomes to what's in the brain. Okay, this is important for you to know. It's very important for you to understand when you're talking about advancement in technology. I just showed you 3 separate advancements in technology, okay? Genotropin is the same thing as humatrope, okay? For the most part, they're virtually identical. Now, the plasmid has allowed for 124 less daltons. What does that mean? In layman's terms, it is closer to mimicking the exact results of what the pituitary secretes. What is the difference and what makes a difference for bodybuilding? Okay? Now, I'm gonna put on hold the second difference between these, and I'm gonna talk about in the pamphlets, and I'm gonna talk about bodybuilding and what's the difference between them. Okay? Serostim is FDA approved for HIV positive patients. I just read to you what the difference was in weight. It had 1 additional dalton in weight, and it was filtered through the mammalian filtration. Okay, the same company has another product which is also made for humans, which has the additional one less dalton and is available for human usage for children, not just for HIV positive patients. Okay. Something about the additional dalton makes Serostim retain more nitrogen in the body. So you actually can grow more muscle off of it than the other two. In the way that steroids do, which is not the primary factor, the primary reason that growth hormone makes you grow. Growth hormone makes you grow for other reasons, not mainly nitrogen retention. That's one of them, but it's not one of the bigger ones like steroids do. Okay, so this one in particular makes you retain more nitrogen, and it has 1 additional dalton. The genotropin has the 1 less dalton, and it works very similar to humatrope, which we know is approved, and it's approved for children, which you know have pituitary deficiency. So for kids that can't grow taller, this is what they use. For people that have HIV and have muscle wasting syndrome, they use the Serostim, and now the Norditropin with this plasmid. This is the difference here, is this plasmid. And 124 less daltons. Let's not forget that. That 124 less daltons made it so that part of it so that the suspension is in water, so it stays mixed. Now, I want to talk to you now about the second difference in these, okay? And that has to do with storage and handling. Okay, storage and handling. Number 6.2. Serostim. Before reconstitution, vials of Serostim and dilutants should be stored at room temperature. Okay? Expiration dates are stated on the product labels. Okay, then it goes into after reconstitution. The reconstituted solution should be used immediately, and any unused portions should be discarded. And then it says for multi-use vials after reconstitution with bacteriostatic water for injection, the solution should be stored refrigerated for up to 14 days. So they're telling you that the water makes a difference in how long the product lasts. It's sent with sterile water. Sterile water has to be used right away. If you use the bacteriostatic water, it can be used for up to 14 days. But the key thing is before reconstitution, vials of serostim and diluent should be stored at room temperature. This is different from what initially was in Humatrope. Humatrope had to be stored it had to be refrigerated from when it was used to when it was done being, when it was made to when it's done being used. Let's go to Genotropin. Genotropin under storage and handling. 16.1. 16.14. Okay. Storage and handling. Okay. And this is Pfizer's Genotropin. Okay. Storage, except for as noted below, store Genotropin under refrigeration. Okay, do not refreeze. So you have to store it refrigerated. Serostim does not have to be stored refrigerated. And the Genotropin does have to be stored refrigerated. Okay. After reconstitution, it may be stored under refrigeration for up to 28 days. So lowering 1 dalton, their claim is that it must be refrigerated. Let's go to the Norditropin, and let's look at storage and handling under the Norditropin by Novo Nordisk. Number 16, storage and handling. Storage and handling, I'm going to go down to where it says individually cartoned. Okay, and then down here is no FlexPro's orange, green, cartons, unused Norditropin, which means new, unused. Norditropin FlexPro and Nordiflex pre-filled pens, pre-filled meaning they're already in water. Okay, must be stored in the refrigerator. Do not freeze. Avoid from direct light. After the initial injection, the Norditropin, FlexPro, or Nordiflex pre-filled pen may either be stored in the refrigerator and used within 4 weeks or stored for up to 3 weeks at room temperature. Stating that once I assume that air reaches it, you have 28 days at room temperature, and that's when they say that it starts to get weaker and weaker. Okay? So it's important to understand that they're saying that the pure that it gets, on one end, with the 1 dalton removed, it has to be refrigerated, stored, and used. On the other end, at 22,000 daltons, they're saying that once it's open, it's good for 28 days. Upon further investigation, I found out that Chinese companies were legally importing growth hormone in the around 2005 time before that, and that's when growth hormone clinics were available, and companies like Science and Genotropin had U.S. Representatives, and they were making their product available. They were using a human growth hormone that was identical to Humatrope, although their product did not have to be refrigerated, like Serostim. Again, all of these went off of the original 1987 patent, okay? And there's discrepancies from that initial patent on storage and handling. Lilly, the company that made Humatrope, Genotropin, who's made by Pfizer, and Norditropin by Novo, these companies all claim the product must be refrigerated from the minute that it's, stored, minute it's made, stored on the shelf until it's basically done being used, with the exception of the premixed Norditropin, which it can be at room temperature once it's opened and it's good for 28 days. The reality is that this is not true. All the growth hormone is perfectly fine at room temperature before it has been reconstituted, and reconstitution, or in the case of the pre-mixed ones, where they claim that it's good at room temperature once you open it for the first injection, once the needle's been through it, is only to allow them to charge more money. They've been charging more money for storage and handling, quadrupling the cost of the drug. On the end of Serostim, the fact that it's for HIV means that insurance companies are going to be paying for it. So on that end, they charge them a lot of money. So it's kind of a big bank of everybody up here collecting money when you need a prescription for something. And that's American politics. That's politics of the prescription drug companies. See, if the drug companies were to say that it could be kept at room temperature, then the Chinese imports would be able to be sent over here without any discrepancy. The very first people that raised any awareness to this were the American drug companies. The American drug companies lobbied Congress and got Congress to make it illegal for any imported GH growth hormone to be used in this country, and made it basically importing growth hormone was to be the same as steroids. Okay? Essentially making it so you had to either take yourself and go to another country, or Mexico or some of these other places where they're having the growth hormone clinics. They had to stop doing business in America, so they went to other countries, and then you have to fly down there and then get a doctor from over there, give you a supply of it, and come back over here, and then you can get the real pharmaceutical stuff. Even they will tell you it doesn't have to be refrigerated. And in the very beginning, when I got it, it was refrigerated. It was out of the hospitals, it was always cold, and that's the way that they kept it. And I did not read anything other than the storage and the handling of it was to be treated if it was live, and it would then, in other essence, spoil at room temperatures. This was not true. It was actually all created to increase the price of the product. All the initial patents were from 1987, even the premixed one, because Genotropin AQ by Genentech was also a product that came out after Humatrope, and that was also a premixed one, but they stated that it had to be refrigerated, and the only difference was that it was more stable. Okay, these are all basically one up on the other, one up on the other, and what they did was they preserved the ability to keep the price high with storage and handling. And that makes a big difference if your product has to be, refrigerated. They do the same thing with insulin, by the way. A lot of insulin can be kept out of the refrigerator. Now, I'm not encouraging anyone to do this. I'm not a doctor or a physician. I'm just reading to you guys what's on the paper. But you can put your own mind to it and understand that since all of these were from the original patent, that the only thing that Novo did was they told you one part of the truth. Well, the plasmid did lower the daltons. That's absolutely true. And that purified the product even more. But where they gave up, the secret was once the air has been exposed to it, once the needle's been into it for the first time, it can be at room temperature for 3 weeks. 3 weeks. Why can it be at room temperature for 3 weeks once air is exposed to it, but it has to be kept cold all that time before? Logically, it doesn't make any sense. It would make more sense that once air has been exposed to it, it would then, like HCG, have a certain time to where it would then start to expire or degenerate. But that's not what they're claiming. And why? Because then the price of the drug can be quadrupled from handling and care from when it's sent from the manufacturer all the way over to the pharmaceutical warehouses that hold them, and then to your pharmacy where it's distributed. If all that has to be refrigerated from point A to point B, just from the drug maker to the pharmaceutical warehouses, they can artificially increase the price of that based on fuel from a country where it's being made, like Belgium, for example, where Genotropin is being made, and that's being shipped all the way over here, supposedly refrigerated. that costs more when it comes to the sale of the drug. So what they do is they can actually, refrigerating a drug is nothing for them if they have built-in refrigerators into the vessels that transport the drugs from Belgium to America, or if they come via air. That's another way that they come too. So there's multiple different ways the drug companies can have a drug manufacturer from another company, same branch, make a drug that has to be handled a certain way, brought into America without having to worry about customs, because they go through a faster inspection because their companies are in the United States but branched out. So they have a different set of standards. However, I have an inside source to a person who works inside of the company in Belgium who told me that it's simply not true. All the technology goes back to 1987, and from Serostim, they were always, even from that 22,125 daltons from Serostim, then they were allowed to do it without it being refrigerated, and it's always been that way since. It just can't get warm. So for those of you who do have access to growth hormone from overseas, as long as it doesn't get warm and as long as it stays at room temperature, it's perfectly fine until you reconstitute it, assuming that it's not a counterfeit, okay? And we can get into that in another video. But for those of you who wanted to know, it has been sort of a well-kept secret amongst the big drug companies to artificially raise the final price of the product to you by using a special preferred method of storage and handling for the delivery. And in these makers, that's what they state. I'm telling you it's not true. Until next time, Guru Ameen.